we have Moritz Rietschel from Raven. Moritz joins to explain how Raven is able to transform your images and text into parametric models. So please put your hands together. Welcome Moritz to the stage.
Okay, hi, my name is Moritz. You might have seen us on your socials or maybe at one of the other conferences. We're building Raven, and I'm here to talk a little bit about how we see the future of design and designers now that AIs feel like they can kind of do everything already. I'm quite honored that I got the speaking slot and then I got to be on stage with like these great other speakers. I think it's really also a testament to NXT BLD. What kind of crowd they can get together, and yeah, discuss the future. So first of all, who are we? We're building new tools for designers that are like native to AI, right? We are not a tool that is kind of pivoting into AI, but we have been from the start all about how do we bring AI to designers and like make it work for them. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So there are a lot of firms that, what we see if you look at the CAD software that we all use, and that's also what you discuss at these conferences all the time, right, is that it's very fragmented. We have silos, we have different data paths, data types, and so on. And that's kind of like, the problem is always at the handoffs, right? So even if you import a model from one to the other and so on, connecting the different tools that you have is kind of where the systems break down. Even though they look great in a demo, when you actually start working on things, they break down. Or what we also see is people pitching you an AI native CAD suite, which is this idea that, oh, actually now we can build it all from scratch and this time we'll do it better. But the problem with those is that you got to retrain all of your talent. You lose the decades of IP and data that really make up also the name of your big firm, right? And then the one thing that I also find kind of interesting that's always kind of falling under the table in these discussions is that they have a ceiling on their complexity. They're not the 20-year-old tools that were developed thoroughly and have all the things built in already that you need, but they're kind of these like work in progress tools. So what do we do at Raven? We don't want to build an AI system that is kind of in one part of this process. We think that this linear process is breaking down anyway. And what you need is something that stretches kind of across your tools and across the design process. So it's not an early stage design tool or an analysis tool or a BIM tool, but it's something that tries to really bring all of those together. We saw it earlier in the presentation that Bentley did. But here I have the same video again, just a little bit slower so we can look at some of the stuff that's happening. And you can see that starting from a sketch, you can create a grasshopper model and then have that sketch and your prompting be in context as you develop this parametric model together with Raven. So it's a collaborative approach. It's not an automation. That's what Raven does. And then you can push it, for example, to Bentley. Raven is your AI system for Grasshopper and Rhino because we think that the tools that we've been building for 20 years are valuable. They have a lot of knowledge built into them. They already perform all of the actions that you need them to do. And what you need is to bring them all together, solve the interfaces, and deploy AI that's sort of native across that suite instead of rebuilding something from scratch. Also, instead of doing something like an MCP that throws some blocks into your CAD, like, I don't know, a Rhino file. If you build a Rhino file with an MCP, you have sort of loose objects and you're back to manual modeling after that. One of the things that we really love about the Grasshopper platform that makes it attractive, even if you are not currently a parametric designer, is the structure that it brings into CAD models. So some of the reasons why it's a good idea to build on top of the existing systems is that you can use a lot of the things that they already bring. So the node-based structure of Grasshopper is actually the perfect way to author a 3D model for AI because the node abstracts away all sorts of functions. You can make a CAD model, you can have a simulation in there, you can call foreign APIs, and at the same time, they all work through inputs and outputs, and they are very well structured. So if you build a model using Raven and Grasshopper, you get a structured 3D model that can still be just as complex as your normal Rhino model, but it's actually way easier to collaborate on with an AI model to fix things. If you have an MCP build you a building and you want to, I don't know, take out a floor, you're back to a manual edit, and in Grasshopper, it's one little slider move, right? So this very thoroughly structured data, the thing that makes Grasshopper a pain to use or to learn, is exactly the right place to be if you want to work with an AI model and collaborate on your modeling tasks. And of course, you can abstract away complexity. You can have different levels to navigate through the graph. So working on big Grasshopper graphs is actually really good for models and for humans to collaborate on. And then this is what you want to bring into your AI model. Now, okay, AI models can work with Grasshopper files, and that's a good idea. But AI models are not reliable, right? The thing is, if you don't rebuild the entire CAD suite, it comes with way more depth. So instead of just giving you an early stage design tool with AI, we can give you an AI tool that can do all of the things that you were doing already anyway. So you can build geometry with Raven in Rhino, but you can also run your analysis tools and connect it to all the other things that already exist. So you are not stuck in a shallow AI CAD suite, but you really get the full depth of the McNeil ecosystem. What does that mean for a designer? So we build an AI system. You can work with it collaboratively in Grasshopper. Great, it can use all those tools. But what does that mean for design? And we think that in a future where your agents, and the future is not very far away, if we're honest, if your agents can solve a lot of the well-specified tasks, you can send them off to, I don't know, handle your data and pass it on to another system. What does the designer do? Raven started 2 years ago when I published a paper at Acadia as part of my grad studies in Berkeley. The paper was called Mediating Modes of Thought, Language Models for Design Scripting. And from the very, very onset, we were interested in making design tools with AI. All the way back then, it was about mediating between you and your computational tools. So that's what we're still interested in. And that's exactly why Grasshopper is a beautiful interface. Instead of giving you a black box that spits out a model on the other side, what you get is a workflow. Right? It's an auditable workflow made from Grasshopper nodes that you can trust from the plugins you're going to use anyway, and you can look at every part of the process instead of just being given a result. That's why working within Grasshopper is a great interface if you want to work with AI, and you and AI collaborate on creating the complex structures that the CAD kernel then solves. Right? Grasshopper is not just a result. It's not the AI result. It's a process that invites you to come in, change parts, update your model, and so on. It's not a black box magic. You stay in full control. And once you close Raven and you take out the language model, you have a fully native Grasshopper graph, just like if you made it yourself. Now, I know it sounds ridiculous to say, oh, we want to make a design tool, so you went to Grasshopper. Grasshopper is not the favorite tool of your design-heavy architects, right? It's a tool for the architects that are turning slowly into engineers. But recently, actually 2 months ago, at a hackathon project, we were exploring this idea of how do we bring direct interaction and the things that you love about a UI in Rhino back into an AI-assisted workflow. And the answer is that you actually want to keep a lot of the things that make Rhino attractive right now, and you just want to add extra layers in the back. So we looked to Blender, which has this feature called modifiers. That's really just an abstraction of running a script in the background and giving you a little bit of a UI. And we brought it into Rhino and Grasshopper. This is an open source project, but it's pointing towards a direction where we see AI and design sort of merging, becoming a tool where you can have direct interaction with your CAD model here, and then you can apply a bit of logic to it, right? In this case, it's just a taper. But then you can take that taper and you can add another script that cuts it into floor plates. You can have Raven write complex scripts in the background, let you interact with the entire suite of Grasshopper plugins while you are sitting in Rhino with direct interaction on the tools that you already know. I started this section of my talk talking about how do we bring design tools to designers that are like AI native. And we really think that this way, where you get easy direct interaction, but you have an added layer of that gives you basically access to the entire world of coding and plugins and so on, and bringing that right into the UI that you're familiar with, into the files that you already have. Here you can see now I'm starting to run a ladybug analysis based on the context, cutting it into floor plates, and everything still just exposes the simple UI And now, just in a moment, I think, we're going to click the edit button, and that will open up the Grasshopper file that is behind this. So this all still runs native Grasshopper. It's just a different kind of interaction for that native Grasshopper. And if you click on edit, it will open up a Grasshopper file, and you're back to your ground truth, right? The tools that you already trust. So this is how we think the future of design will look like. You're grounded in the tools that you know. You can draw from all these different parts, right? And everything is sort of an interconnected world that is not on a linear scale where you export at the end of your process, but instead you can draw from the previous scripts that you have, you can run analysis, you can interact with autonomous agents, and they really center you as a designer within all of that context. You're not waiting to hand off your model to run a simulation to then never look at the results again, but instead in the design process, you can bring all of that into it way earlier and keep it sort of interconnected. And there are these hands-off, I think, these hands-off are kind of falling away. So what does that look like? Here's an example where you're sketching and then you're iterating alongside the AI model to make a bridge model. And the reason why I like this example is it's not you sketch once and you get a model. And it's also not you prompt once and you get a model. Or you get a result that the AI made and then you try in 10 rounds to get rid of this one little thing that you didn't like. But instead, it's really interactive. You can sketch, you can prompt, and you can go in and change the sliders yourself or add graphical components and logic that you know that you want. So it's a really fully fledged interaction between you and the model, getting to the point that you're trying to go to. It's not about one prompt automation, right? It's about this iterative process that can be way faster and way better informed early on. One of the things that I really like about this is also the sketching aspect. So if we go back to this video, you see that we are also not just uploading an image of a hand sketch that we made, but we can actually go in and sketch onto the screenshots. You can start sketching onto the Rhino model views to articulate the changes in the model that you want, right? This is how close we want to be to your design workflows, where as you're authoring this thing, you're already sketching over it. And this was in the bent cloud again. Okay. Very cool. So we have design tools. They center the designer. They let you really explore and have a lot of context early on in the design process. But how do you make them reliable? Well, the reason why you can make reliable tools with AI is because you don't just rely on the AI model. Instead, you rely on the tools like the Rhino CAD kernel that actually execute the plan, right? Which means in our case, we can run any kind of simulation software that you already use. We can rely on all the software that you already have and just have the AI sort of act on top of it, which means that the things that you're trusting are the same tools as before. You're just chaining them together and operating across them faster. And by all the tools you already use, I mean all the tools that you already use. So through the Rhino Grasshopper platform, Raven can already connect you to tools like Ladybug tools and Karamba for structural analysis, but also Rhino inside Revit, right? Rhino inside Revit, you might use that already as like this one-way piping to bring things that you build in Rhino into Revit, but with Raven, it becomes way easier to use and sort of natural and part of this entire workflow. So as we're sketching out this building from earlier, we can already bring that into Revit, into a native BIM model, all within the Grasshopper canvas. Same for ArchiCAD, has a bridge into Grasshopper and so on. So now I want to really urge you guys to consider how you build your tools in the future, because this is, as has been mentioned many times before, and also some great talks in the early morning session pointed out, it's like an inflection point, and the decisions that you make now are going to be really relevant over the next 2 decades to shape the tools that you, as a profession, are using. So betting on ecosystems that are interoperable instead of like monolithic systems, I think is super important. And if you're stuck in a monolithic system, you're kind of cut out from a lot of these interconnected, new workflows that are coming up. And building on past work is a decision that you have to make. You have to decide if you want to get rid of the last 20 years of firm work or if you want to build on top of it, right? Getting into that compounding knowledge that we heard earlier today from Björn Happold. You want to reuse all the things that make you great at your job right now and bring them into the next era. And the only way to do that is to build on the interoperable ecosystems like the one that McNeil built. And You don't want to be stuck in a system that is only in one part of your design flow. You want to be in a system that can span across the tools that you use. What are you going to do with a system that only covers your early stage design if there's a clear cutoff once again, and then you're stuck in Revit in a one-way street again? Another thing, the compounding knowledge that we spoke about this morning is drawing from past scripts. How many times have you guys or someone on your team done sunlight analysis, done like a tessellation and so on, and then you never use those scripts again because they're in Grasshopper or because nobody can understand them or you don't know where they are? We are really betting big on this shared hub of knowledge that AI agents can interoperate in, draw from, and really compound also for your firm. Here I have a couple of examples of the things that Raven can connect to already. Here, for example, you have a Karamba script. Raven natively understands Karamba. It can switch out the beams, run simulations. It's grounded in structural analysis from Karamba when it talks to you about the model, right? It's not hallucinating this stuff. And you can see where the information comes from because it's all in your Grasshopper file. There's no black box. There's no hidden things. Same with Revit, of course. Rhino inside. Super incredible development by McNeil that lets you control Revit out of Grasshopper. When you use Raven, and here in this case, Vibe CAD, a simple building, it's a parametric building. You're not stuck with like some family that's off. You have a workflow that is auditable, and you can go in and change any part of it. And we really, really think that that's the future for AI systems like this. Same is also true for Archicad. I saw that they were here, so I thought I would include this. Okay, this is your design process today. You can solve at each part of this with one AI tool, but what you really want is an interconnected ecosystem. And there's one place that already has it, and I encourage you to bet on that place and not go and build one monolithic giant again that has to try and cover all these little bits. This interconnectedness is really the way to go forward. It'll become a place where as you're designing, you're running a simulation, you're getting information back, you can get BIM models out and so on, and it will become an interactive canvas that's way more circular than it is today, and these handoffs discontinue. So it's up to you which path you choose. It's a really important moment for you to act. I don't think you should sit back and basically watch a show because we're already working with a lot of leading firms that are sort of developing these new systems that, how they interact with their data, how you draw from them, how you get to that compounding knowledge moment. And if you want to shape that future, you have to step up now and interact with it. And I think you should be interacting with the open and interoperable ecosystems of this world and not the closed off ones. And that's what we call the Rebel Alliance. So we think of Rhino and Grasshopper as this world of specialists that solve specific things that are all interoperable. They're all on the Grasshopper canvas. And it's a great place for you to come and bring your resources, your knowledge, your feedback into this ecosystem, because this is the kind of AI future that will enable a much better workflow for everybody instead of closing it off behind closed doors. We have real adoption. This slide is very outdated, but Raven's in 130 countries. Probably if you're from a big firm, there are people on your team already using Raven. Maybe they're using it to learn Grasshopper right now, but we see that as the future to connect across your tools and draw in the information that you need. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Moritz. Right, next up, we have Carl Christensen from Autodesk,